it like to live
No.
in the...
ไปฟังอ่ะ
Please state your name and your date of birth.
My name is Marjorie Marie Kent Rosen, and I was born on March 7th, 1929.
Where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Texas, in a lot of little towns in West Texas. I was born in Childress, Texas, and I lived a lot of times in Muleshoe and some in Sudan, and later on I lived in Portales, New Mexico. So you see, I traveled traveled around quite a bit.
Tell me about your parents.
My parents, my daddy's name is Ernest Preston Kent, and my mother, Louetta James Kent. And they lived in Childress, Texas, and they were married when they were very young. And let's see, I can't think of anything else. They were separated when I was about 9.5 years old. And I lived with my daddy. My sister and I lived with my dad in Childress until I was 15.
So tell me about your grandparents.
Well, my grandparents, my daddy's father was John Gooch Kent was his name, and he lived in Childress, Texas also, but he was from Tennessee. And they lived out on a farm when I was very young, and I remember that farm very well. But later on they moved into Childress, Texas, and by that time my grandfather had married for the second time because my grandmother Kent had died when I was just 3 months old. And the only grandmother Kent that I ever knew was Lucy, and we called her Aunt Lucy, and she was very, very kind to me and to my sister.
Tell me about the Dust Bowl.
The Dust Bowl, I don't remember. I mean, we didn't call it the Dust Bowl, but of course I was very young, and I do remember that there was a lot of sand that blew around, and it was very, very, very uncomfortable when I'd walk to school. The sand would be blowing so hard that it would burn my legs. It would sting my legs almost like ants, something like that. And it was very hard for the farmers, which my daddy worked for farmers. He didn't have, we were very poor, Lena, and it was very hard for my parents. But of course I wasn't really aware of it because everybody was poor and everybody was struggling.
What was it like to live in the Great Depression?
Well, just as I said, it was very hard and we were very poor, but I wasn't aware that we were going through a depression because I was so young and everybody was in the same boat, and remember that means in the same position and the same situation. The one thing that we did have because of our President Franklin D. Roosevelt, they had what was called WPA, and that means Works Progress Administration. And because of that, my daddy got a job on the highways, and he worked on the highway and earned more money than he would have earned on the farm. And also we've got what was called commodities, and we would go to different churches, and my parents would collect food for us. And so that tells you that we were very poor.
Tell me about your sister.
And my sister was 2 years younger than I, Dorothy Ellen. And after my parents were separated, my sister and I lived with our daddy for a while together, in about 3 years in Childress, and then my sister went to live with our mother in Muleshoe, Texas, and I stayed on in Childress with my dad until I was 15 years old. And my sister and I used to fight like cats and dogs, just like you and Lulu do. But we still loved each other, and we fought because I was trying to get her to do what she was supposed to do to help me.
What kind of food did you have to eat?
Oh, we ate a lot of beans.
What kind of beans?
Beans and cornbread and eggs and butter and chickens. We'd go on Sundays. That's one thing I do remember. We would go to Grandpa and Lucy Kent's for Sunday dinner and have chicken and dumplings. And that's the kind of food we had, and we never were really hungry because they lived on the farm too, and so we had food like that from the farm, and chickens and eggs.
Did you have a washing machine?
No, we didn't have a washing machine. We had and one time when we were living out in the country, my sister and I had to do the washing from a big, I can remember having the fire, and there was a big iron kettle that we'd put the soap and the water in and wash the clothes with a scrub board, and then rinse them in a separate tub and hang them on a line. That's how we did the laundry. And then when we lived in town, we would take them to the washing machine, but it wasn't like a washing machine that we have now. It was separate tubs, and you would have a wringer that you would wring the clothes out.
So...
And hang them up to dry. We certainly didn't have dryers.
So, what do you know about the World War II?
What do I know about World War II? Well, we just knew that there was a war going